Hi, and welcome to chapter one. This week's chapter one is Brewing Up Bones. And you can see of it, I can't even get it right. Over here, Rowena is joining us in her box. Chapter one. I can't believe it. Bertie Beebe squealed so loud it made me nearly slosh hot espresso down the front of my apron. I jerked the cup back just in time, but Bunny Bowowski clapped her hands over her ears as if Bertie had hollered straight into them. Bertie Beebe, Loretta Beebe's granddaughter, stood behind the beanhive counter where she worked most afternoons, bouncing on her toes with her usual offbeat flair. Her platinum blonde, pixie cut hair gleamed beneath the coffee shop's pendant lights. And today's outfit included an orange and black striped tights under a shredded denim dress with tiny dangling plastic bats on them. She was thin as a rail, but her personality could fill the whole boardwalk. What is wrong with you? Bunny huffed, adjusting her pillbox hat as if she had been dislodged from a sonic boom as she was about to leave from her morning shift. Don't you know we're in a place of business? Bunny Bowowski wasn't exactly the epitome of calm herself. Most days when she got frazzled, her frazzledness was contagious. She waddled away in her thick orthopedic shoes, her pink shawl slipping halfway off her house dress, muttering about how her ears were still ringing and her arthritis didn't need the shock. I mean it, Bertie practically danced in place. Granny didn't tell me who she was expecting to come to town for the New Holland Festival. Right there in the middle of the Beanhive coffee shop stood Loretta Beebe herself. She'd swept in like she owned the place, which some social circles she did. Loretta Beebe was like a one-woman parade of a Southern ambition. Loretta wasn't just a fixture in Honey Springs. She was the chandelier, the velvet drapes, and the crown molding all wrapped up into one. With her jet black hair teased high and sprayed stiff as concrete, and her tan that gave her the glow of a burnt orange candle even in January, she made an entrance that turned heads and stirred opinions. She claimed Cherokee blood, but everyone in town knew her color came straight from Lisa Stahl's garage tanning bed, betrayed by the pale skin between her fingers and on her neck. Her bracelets jingled from elbow to wrist, and her hot pink nails were filed into tiny daggers, and every one of her fingers sparkled with a chunky ring, each the size of a jawbreaker, and she adamantly talked to the three young people with her. She always wore heels that clicked like punctuation, and her glossy black handbag was in the crook of her elbow like a trophy, and it swayed. Today she wore a mustard yellow dress under a tapestry coat. Her expression had a tight-lipped smile she reserved for when she was about to bulldoze someone with charm. Loretta ran the town's beautification committee and the Southern Women's Club. She sat on every possible church board and civic group and owned the only jewelry store in town called Diamonds, which she never worked at. Loretta loved being the center of attention, and today she had three perfectly filtered reasons to be glowing. The social media influencers trailing behind her. It looks like to me Loretta has some competition, Bunny snickered as we noticed the two women and the one male seeming to take over the coffee shop. Each one of them was dressed in high gloss, carefully curated outfits with the matching oversized sunglasses and clothes I couldn't even afford, even if I sold every pie in the case. And the phone gimbals already recording every move. So who are they? I asked, setting the espresso cup on the counter and grabbing a towel to wipe the splash. Bertie leaned in so close her bangles tapped the countertop. Those two women with Granny are not just anybody. That's at Will Travel for Snacks, at Boozy and Book, and the guy is at Trail Mix and Trends. What now? I blinked. They're like the biggest influencer accounts in the country, Roxy. They're the ones who's competing for the Kentucky tourism contract, the one with the $1 million prize. That, I groaned. The Kentucky Tourism Commission had announced a huge fall-winter media push back in July. The state was offering $1 million campaign budget to one influencer team. And in the unusual twist, they were turning it into a contest. Competing influencers would spend 2 weeks in various small towns showcasing festival, food, local charm, whatever made Kentucky special in autumn and winter. And Honey Spring was a critical stop on the campaign, where the competition went down from 3 influencers to 2 influencers as they would move on the last round of the competition, which was ending in Louisville, Kentucky. Loretta had flown into action like a rhinestone tornado after she left that meeting and had scrambled to apply. I remembered her in the bean hive that morning, waving her glittery folder around, saying, "It's high time to shine, Sugar Plum. We've got the lake, the coffee, and enough Southern charm to butter a biscuit from 50 paces." Apparently, she'd convinced someone because now these influencers, each with over 1 million followers, were here in Honey Spring and in my coffee shop. I thought when Granny said that she needed help with a few guests, it was just, low-level bloggers, Bertie whispered. So I told her I was too busy to work with her. So I was working today and I didn't realize it was them. Her eyes were as wide as saucers stacked by the espresso machine. "Roxy, they're already posting stories and one of them tagged the Bean Hive, tagged us." "Oh, Lordy," Bunny groaned from across the room. "Does that mean we're on the Instabooks now?" Loretta breezed up to the counter and gave us all her usual "don't make a fuss" expression. "Girls, smile pretty. We are officially the first stop on the influencer immersion tour." I glanced around the coffee shop and noticed a slightly crooked chalkboard menu and the fact that the left thermos on the self-coffee serve bar had a slow, steady drip. My eyes twitched. I suddenly felt the urge to run and rebake every muffin in the cake and refold all the tea towels and scrub the grout between the tile floors. But before I could reach for the towel again, the 3 influencers had peeled away from their clusters by the front windows and approached the counter. One of them, tall and angular, with sleek red hair tucked into a beige beret, gave a polite smile and lowered her phone. "Hi there, I'm Addison at Will Travel for Snacks." Her voice was smooth and trained, like she'd said her handle enough times it belonged on her driver's license. "I'll do a pumpkin caramel crunch latte, oat milk if you got it." "Well, of course I do," I said, clicking into action behind the espresso machine. The second woman, who was wearing a floaty black and orange maxi dress and rhinestone cat ears, leaned into the counter with both elbows. "I'm Marlo at Boozy and Booked. I'll take a dirty chai with 2 shots of espresso, and if you have any pastries with bourbon in them, I am legally obligated to buy one." "Bourbon pecan pie muffin," I said, already jotting it down on the order pad. "Oh, yes, very Kentucky," Bertie nodded in agreement. The third stepped up last, and it was a young man, maybe in his mid-20s, with silver-dyed hair, styled in a messy hairdo, and faded thrift short tie that read, "Be kind," under a mustard-colored cable knit cardigan. He had black cuff jeans, high-top sneakers, and scuffed just enough to look intentional, and a vintage camera slung over one shoulder. "I'm Tilden at Trail Mix and Trends," he said with a breezy grin, his eyes scanning the chalkboard. "What's the most photogenic drink on the menu that tastes like fall but doesn't scream basic?" You want a cozy aesthetic or a caffeine kick?" I asked, grabbing for the spice syrup. "I want both," he said, holding up his phone and adjusting the lighting. I'm filming a first sip, final word series today, and you've got 10 seconds to impress me." "Well, then you're getting the honey harvest latte," I told him, "made with local honey, cinnamon whipped cream, and a touch of sparkle. It photographs like a dream." Tilden gave a low whistle. "Now that's content," he said. "You got it," I said, reaching for the mug with the Bean Hive Honey Bee logo stamped on the side. If they were going to be featuring my drink on their social media, I wanted my logo in there. "Well, I reckon you're going to need me to stay," Bunny Bowowski said as she pulled off her pillbox hat with a sigh and then hung her pink shawl back up on the hook behind the counter and put on an apron. "The way folks are pouring in, we'll be out of everything but decaf and napkins if we're not careful." The door had barely stopped jingling. Word must have gotten out that they were here because every customer came in with their phones already up and scanning the coffee shop for the influencers. A few whispered and pointed. One group even lining up near the window to take selfies with At Will for Travel Snacks, who was obliging with a grin. And behind the counter, it became an all-hands-on-deck moment. "I'll start on the pumpkin caramel crunch," I said, grabbing a clean steaming pitcher and checking the syrup levels. "Bertie, you can do the dirty chai with the bourbon pecan muffin plate, okay?" "Already on it," she chirped, sliding on gloves and moving with purpose as her usual quirky self energy dialed up 1,000 watts. Bunny looked over at the register, and then she moved on right over there as she prepped the to-go drink carriers. "I'll finish plating these scones and get a fresh pot of fresh roast going," she said, already filling the carafe. The espresso machine hissed to life, milk frothed and swirled, and the sweet, spicy scent of fall flavors filled the air like a warm blanket. I drizzled caramel in a tight spiral and topped it with a crumble of cinnamon graham dust. A light sparkle of nutmeg made the drink pop just enough under the cafe lights. "Gimme the edible glitter," Bertie said, practically singing as she added the finishing dusting to the honey harvest latte. "I swear y'all are turning this place into Willy Wonka's coffee lab," Bunny muttered, though the edges of her mouth were still twitching upward. As we slid each drink into the tray, customers leaned over to sneak pictures, and even more phones went up like a lighter at a concert. Addison, Marlowe, and Tilden gathered around like it was a photo shoot instead of a coffee pickup. Addison raised her latte to the light, turning it slowly in her hands before snapping 3 rapid photos. Marlowe took a dramatic sip of her dirty chai, her eyes closed like she was in a food competition show. And Tilden, he knelt down on one knee by the window to get a cozy shot with the lake in the background. Their commentary ranged from "this foam art is everything" to "I'm going to tag this hashtag sip of the season." Bertie, her face flushed from the rush of customers and the sugary glitter, muttered, "I'll be right back," she said before slipping through the kitchen swinging doors just as Loretta meandered over to the counter. "She didn't even drink it," Betty grumbled, pointing to Marlowe. "She took a picture, waved it around, and left it sitting on the table." Loretta ignored her and turned to me with a gleam in her eye. "Well, we're going to need some extra pies, something photogenic. You might want to add a new signature drink, something with dry ice, maybe. I want this travel trend by supper." I opened my mouth to respond, but what came out was more of a resigned sigh. I laughed even as my brain spun in 12 different directions. It looked like the No Holla Festival was just going to be bringing in the usual autumn crowds, but from across the room, the 3 influencers had taken up residence by the front window like they were there for the lifestyle shoot. Addison, at Will Travel for Snacks, held her pumpkin crunch latte at a perfect angle so it would catch the light filtering through the glass panes. "It's giving caramel dream vibes," she said into her phone, her voice lifting with the ease of someone that was used to narrating their life in snippets. Marlowe, at Boozy and Book, she twirled in place with her dirty chai balanced in one hand, describing the bean as a hidden gem tucked into the Kentucky hills, while her dress floated like a Halloween movie poster. And Tilden, at Trail Mix and Trends, he was already perched on the bar stool, elbows on the windowsill, his honey harvest latte untouched by his typing furiously into his phone with one thumb, camera in the other, probably editing a post before the foam had even settled. "They're real polished, I'll give them that," Bunny muttered, joining me behind the counter with a fresh batch of lemon scones. She just retrieved from the kitchen a fresh batch that smelled like heaven. "But I'd like to see just one of them try to keep a sourdough starter alive through a Kentucky July." "Well, I think they're more used to oat milk and photo filters," I replied, reaching for a fresh stack of saucers. "Well, I hope that Loretta told them this festival isn't about Instagram stories and costume contests. There's a lot of heavy lifting, literally. I heard someone has to haul the pumpkin carver scaffolding down to the Cocoon Inn this afternoon," Buddy said, giving me a side eye. "Oh, no," I said, catching her look. "You're not wrangling me into anything with scaffolding, are you? I'm still recovering from hanging the pumpkin garland across the shop window last week." "Well, I reckon we can call Patrick." Bunny referred to my husband, which was an excellent idea. The door chimed again, and this time it was Mayor Callie Hartwell striding in with the no-nonsense energy of someone juggling 5 committees before lunch. She wore one of her signature jewel-tone cardigans, an emerald one today, with a clipboard tucked under one arm and a stack of glossy No Holla flyers in the other. "I need 6 large coffees, 3 caramel lattes, and 2 iced teas," she said, barely pushing up to the counter. "I'm taking them to some of the volunteers at Central Park. They're working hard, even to get more spectacular for the paw raid in the morning." "Coming right up," I said. I had to pause because I had company. So we're going to start where I left off. Busy, which is what we need. We've got to make the most of this while we got national attention. These influencers could single-handedly keep the tourism booming through March. Did you know they each have over 4 million followers? Loretta said. That's what Bertie said. I turned to fix her drink order. Oh, that was the mayor. We left off with the mayor. So again, this is what happens when you get company. We're gonna start all over on that part, and I'm not gonna edit this out because I'm just not gonna do it. So the door chimed again, and this time it was Mayor Callie Hartwell, striding in with the no-nonsense energy of someone juggling 5 committees before lunch. She wore one of her signature jewel-toed cardigans, an emerald one today, with a clipboard tucked under one arm and a stack of glossy no-hollow flowers in the other. I need 6 large coffees, 3 caramel lattes, and 2 iced teas, she said, barely pausing at the counter. I'm taking them to some of the volunteers at Central Park. They are working hard to get it even more spectacular for the parade in the morning. Coming right up, I said, already pulling cups. How are things looking down there? I asked. Busy, which is what we need. We've got to make the most of this while those national attention is on us. Those influencers could single-handedly keep tourism booming through March. Did you know they each have over 4 million followers? That's what Bertie said. I turned to fix her drink order, and by the time I slid the drink tray to the end of the counter, Callie had moved on to straightening a table sign and giving me a thumbs up. She scooped up the trays and disappeared to the coffee shop crowd. I leaned an elbow against the counter and I looked around at the shop. Pepper, my salt and pepper schnauzer, and the unofficial Beanhive mascot, trotted over to the fireplace with a huff. For a moment, everything was still, the clink of coffee spoons, the steam rising from the urns, and the gentle sound of the lake outside the windows. It was fall in Honey Spring, the kind of season we waited for, and this year it just so happened to come with some hashtags. Chapter 1, Brewing Up Bones.